So I'm sure you guys know by now whether or not you hopped on World War II and checked it out for yourselves, or if you saw yesterday's video. But yesterday we ended up getting an update to World War II that changed actually a lot about what we know with some of the weapon classifications and a few individual weapons on their own. So as the first major change to World War II, an update that we've gotten since Aaron Halon has taken the helm at Sledgehammer, it's been a rather smooth sailing update, I think. I've had a really good time with World War II. The weapons feel really good compared to what they were previously. Now, some of course, once again, are very minuscule differences and you have to pay a lot of attention to even see any slight adjustment to it, but for what it's worth, the weapons that did get major buffs, you can totally notice them and they do feel good. They feel competitive in the grand scheme of how the weapons work out. But that said, while we've had a little bit over a half dozen weapons adjusted in yesterday's update, I wanted to take a look at some of these classifications and give you guys some classes that I think you guys will definitely flourish with if you give them a shot. So that said, we're gonna be taking a look at 3 different weapons here in this one, giving you guys the class setups that I've been rocking all day, and I think that they have the potential to do very well for you. And of those weapons that were changed around, we're gonna be taking a look at the M1A1, the MP40, and the Bren. So some weapons sprinkled about in each different classification depending on what sort of player you are. If you subscribe to more so one classification of weaponry than other, or if you guys wanna try out maybe say all 3 of them. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Let's start out with the M1A1 because I was really feeling this one. Surprisingly, jumping into World War II, I was kind of questioning the ability that I'd have for a trigger finger simply because I've been so busy that I just really haven't been able to play all that much. So I was a little bit worried that I wouldn't be able to perform up to standards, but this thing was actually a lot of fun to use, especially with the update that it got as of this most recent update to the fire rate. That was something in which, if you guys may remember back to when we saw it first in the beta, a lot of people were upset that the fire rate cap on it was relatively low compared to what we saw within, say, World at War. If you guys remember all the way back to that, there was no fire rate cap, so depending on how fast your trigger finger was, well, the sky was the limit for that. But with that said, the M1A1 recently had the base fire rate cap increased so that you can end up firing even faster than that of what it was before. And so adding that on top of what I run on this with a rapid fire, it's just a grand old time. So as for the class setup itself, well, I run infantry, a standard for the rifle classification. We'll see that we use infantry a lot within this class setup, but not just for the rifles as they would be normally. So that said, infantry I feel like is a great option because it allows us to have that extra attachment slot. The strafing movement is absolutely huge and the extra magazines are definitely worth putting it on. I'm somebody that loves to have ammo, even if I don't necessarily burn through all of it. I just like to have that backup just in case I do end up living a tremendous span, and then therefore I can stay alive and not really have to worry about finding another weapon to pick up if I run out of ammo. But as for the weapon itself, I run high caliber, rapid fire, and extended mags, as well as steady aim on this, which I know the memes for my channel and the class setups that we do. Primed is my best friend, but I promise we don't use primed on any of the other class setups except for this one, but I feel like it is well worth with this class setup simply because a lot of those attachments you see on it can really do some damage. High caliber, as always, allows you to have that extra headshot lethality, so it takes mathematically 1 shot off if you land at least 1 headshot. So that's beautiful to be able to take out an enemy in 2 shots, definitely massive. Rapid fire increases that already increased fire rate cap that we had from the update and increases it even further. So you can shoot off a lot faster if you have the trigger finger for it. Granted, if you don't and it's something where your trigger finger is relatively slower, you might want to take a look at, say, something else, maybe like a long barrel attachment on it to keep that damage drop off from going a little bit too far, because admittedly the damage drop off might be the worst thing this has to overcome. The damage itself is great, the fire rate is now great, the mobility is great, but it seems like at range it'll just take a little bit longer than I would hope to get a kill off with it. Extended mags though is a massive thing I think as well, because with this increase to the fire rate, you're gonna burn through ammo a little bit faster, whether or not you want to consciously know that or not. You will come across those times where you'll find yourself reloading if you don't have extended mags, but adding that on, you'll be able to get at least 3 to 4 kills off if you're accurate with your shots before you have to reload at all. So it's definitely something I think well worth here, and of course, steady aim kind of helps out that short-term game in which if you need to hit fire, it does help out a little bit more there with this. Of course, when I'm using this, I'm more so going for those long-range kills, so it might not be my priority, but it does help out if the situation arises. As we know, primed is that basic training that we have on this class setup. Then finally, for the secondary and the lethals, I run a machine pistol, as always with extended mags. Of course, it's not something that I really heavily rely on, so if you don't have the machine pistol unlocked, literally any other pistol will do, because I don't really switch over to it. It's more so a focus on the primaries with these class setups. But then finally, we have the Frag Grenade that if I can know where somebody's gonna be at, I can flush them out, get a free kill maybe here and there, but of course, not the primary as with the secondary. So that's gonna do it for the first class setup. The second thing I wanna talk about is the Bren, because the Bren is one we talked about way back, right whenever the game first launched. It was kind of a hidden gem in the sense that the damage was a 2-shot at any single range, and it's still relatively good, but beforehand, literally everything except for the damage sucked about the weapon. So it was one that if you could overcome the mobility, you could overcome the ADS speed, you could overcome just the entire bulkiness of the weapon, it was a fantastic choice. Now, with the Bren, it recently did, with this most recent update to World War II, get an ADS speed increase and a buff in that sense, so all the MGs ended up getting quicker aim down sight times, which does help out. It's not as clunky in that sense, so that's what we're banking on with this one. So in this class setup, I don't run it on armored, I run it on infantry because it's huge for movement. Strafing comes in huge advantages with this selection of this weapon because once again, it is so bulky, so unless you're standing stationary and putting yourself at a risk for being picked off, well, strafing is something that really helps to counterbalance that and becomes a little bit more helpful in favor of your gunfight. As for the Bren itself, I only run 3 attachments on this. We don't have primed, so holding to that promise that I said we don't use primed for the rest of these, we have rapid fire, the 4x optic, and extended mags. Now, as for rapid fire, admittedly the base rate of fire absolutely sucks with this weapon. It is so slow firing that unless you have something at range and your opponent just has their first shots missed, you're probably not going to win the gunfight. But with the rapid fire attachment, it does bring it up to speed a little bit closer to that of the other LMGs within the game. The 4x optic is something that I just don't like the iron sights on this, and I don't have any of the good variants for the Bren to be able to sacrifice this, and realistically, it's okay for me because then at range, I can end up lining up my target a little bit better than that of what I would with the iron sights once again, but that one is probably the most expendable attachment that I would say out of these. And the final attachment we run on it is extended mags, which is definitely a must-have, I think, because you seriously won't need to reload. You have 100 shots in the magazine, and of course, with infantry, you get extra mags, so you have 400 in reserve. That's something that I've never burned through all of that ammo, so it might be overkill in that sense, but again, I'm not using infantry for the magazines in this particular instance. So definitely extended mags is great. You don't have to reload at all, unless you are going to town and tearing it up and say on a 15, 20, 25 kill streak, then you might have to reload, but other than that, it's very nice that you can afford to not have to pay attention to when you have to reload. As for the rest of the class setup though, I run energetic as the basic training, and this once again, kind of playing into that movement so that we can make the movement properties a little bit better because the Bren is still so bulky. It helps with being able to run again, and that's something that is definitely nice because once again, infantry does not have as much sprints as say airborne would, and also with the movement speed being so low with an LMG, the ability to recuperate your energy and jump right back into a sprint can really help in a pinch situation. As for once again, the secondary and the lethal, we do again run the machine pistol with extended mags, though it's not necessarily imperative you run that, and also Frag Grenade to be able to flush out an enemy here and there if you have the opportunity. Now the final class that I have here for you guys is one once again with the MP40, rounding out a rifle, an LMG, and then an SMG, but this one was one that actually had a significant buff in the way of not necessarily statistical properties to fire rates or anything in terms of mobility, but instead to recoil, because believe it or not, once again, the recoil for the MP40 beforehand was actually really bad. It was something in which it had a very large degree of randomness to which it could end up going straight up, it could go side to side, it could go a 45-degree angle over to the right, but you really didn't have any indication as to what it would do when you go into a gunfight. So it became very hard to manage, but with this buff, it ended up making it more so a straight up vertical recoil that is a lot easier to manage, and you'll definitely notice it at range, or say medium to not necessarily longer range, but anything that isn't prime SMG range, you'll definitely notice is a lot easier to control. So that said, with this one, we're gonna be taking advantage of that so that we can end up using this more so in a run and gun situation all around the map, but I run infantry on this, and I've been playing around a little bit with some SMGs and infantry, and despite losing the increased speed and sprints that you get out of the airborne division, I'm really liking the extra magazines, the strafing speed, and the extra attachments for SMGs by using it with infantry. I think it's just a nice combination. So we're gonna be running infantry on this class setup with the MP40 having quick draw, rapid fire, and extended mags. Now, personally, I don't need grip on this to counterbalance the recoil, though the recoil update seemingly added a little bit more on that verticality. It is a lot easier to control, so on my sense, I don't necessarily need to focus too much on it. You guys may want to throw on grip to see how you fare with it or without it, but for this class setup in particular, quick draw is something that once again helps with these sprint out times a little bit more and allows you to get that gun up for a gunfight a little bit faster. Rapid fire is something that really just makes the weapon a little bit better since the fire rate increase that it got, I believe, a month or two ago, whenever it was updated with the M1928. That's something that rapid fire just takes it to that next level. So it can definitely shred through enemies, and I think still as a result, if you have it on, it is one of the best SMGs in the game, if not the best. But then also extended mags is great because you don't have to reload all that much. Once again, you might burn through ammo with rapid fire and a standard stick magazine in the MP40, but with that extended mags, it allows you to get off 1, maybe 2, maybe even 3 more kills per magazine before you have to reload. And again, as with the Bren classification, because we're kind of sacrificing movement a little bit by switching over to infantry, I run energetic as the basic training on this one as well. So it compensates a little bit for that lack of sprints that you consciously sacrifice by putting yourself into infantry, but allows you to sprint again faster. So kind of makes up here and there, maybe not a full 100% back compensation, but it's very close and something that really does help out if you are a mobile player. Now, as for the secondary and the lethal, well, I'm pretty sure you can guess it at this point. It is the machine pistol and the extended mags, which I don't really use all that much. I don't even know if in any of these gameplays you see me pull it out at all. But then the Frag Grenade is, of course, something that is very helpful and can be useful in a situation to flush out enemies. So that, though, are those classes for these 3 weapons that I've been playing around a lot with since the updates. I've been playing around with all the weapons, trying to get a feel for the rest of them. So if you guys want to see some more class setups as of this most recent update, feel free to let me know down there in the comment section and down below. I'll try and get these out as relatively quick as possible if you want to see more of them, because, well, the more time goes on, the more they really stray away from being anything really new and updated in the sense of what COD World War II has to offer. So if you guys want to see more, let me know in the comment section down below. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. If you guys try any of these out, feel free to tweet me or comment your results down there in the comment section down below. I always love hearing your feedback and how you do with these class setups if you do decide to give them a shot. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding World War II, anything regarding best class setups, tips, tricks, news, information, updates, all that good stuff. We got you covered here up on the channel. So if any of it interests you, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that's the best place to get connected with me outside of YouTube. Practically live on Twitter. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. And finally, if you guys want to follow me over on Instagram as well, I'm trying to get a little bit more active over there. So if you guys want to follow on that route, that link is as well in the description below. But I'll see you guys later. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. Hopefully you guys are having a fantastic day. Take care and peace.